Welcome to the Florida Divorce Podcast, your source for the information you need to successfully get through your divorce and into the next exciting chapter of life. Now, here's your host, Attorney Scott Kalish.
Hey everyone, this is Scott Kalish. I am a divorce and family law attorney here in South Florida. Today, I want to talk to you about alimony, and specifically, I want to talk to you about how the court determines the amount of alimony that will ultimately be awarded in a divorce case, right? So I actually did a comprehensive episode on alimony. I think it was the first episode of the podcast. So if you'd like more information on alimony, definitely scroll down to the first episode of my podcast and listen to that episode on alimony. But with this episode, I want to create, just a standalone show on how the court determines the amount of alimony. So let's jump right into it. Essentially, right, there are two main items that have to be proven before we even talk about alimony at all. And that's need and ability to pay. And need and ability to pay really ties into how we come up with the amount. And need essentially is determined based on looking at the requesting spouse's expenses, right? Adding up all of their expenses, and also determining what their income is or what their income should be. Okay. And if their expenses exceed their income, then they have a need, right? And the amount that they're short every month, that will be what the ultimate request is for alimony. And then, once that's determined, the analysis shifts to the would-be paying spouse, right? And we look at what their expenses are, and then we look at what their monthly income is. And if their income exceeds, right, their expenses, if they have a surplus at the end of the month, if they have money left over at the end of the month, then they have an ability to pay. And the amount that their income exceeds their expenses, that is possibly what may be paid for alimony purposes. Now, the total alimony award cannot exceed the would-be requesting spouse's need, right? So there is no savings component in Florida for alimony, right? If you were in the marriage and you were used to saving money every month, thousands of dollars every month, that's, no longer going to be something that the court permits, right? So the paying spouse is not required to pay an amount that allows the person requesting alimony to save every month. That's not legal. That won't happen in court. But that's essentially how we come up with the amount. We look at what the person's need is, and we look at what the other person's ability to pay is. And if the person that's paying for alimony, if they're able to pay the total amount of need, then that's probably what the alimony amount is going to be. Now, keep in mind that the standard of living during the marriage is absolutely relevant, and specifically the standard of marriage towards the end of the marriage. That's what the court, has to look at, right? So that's certainly relevant. Again, something for you to keep in mind, though, is that, just because you're going through a divorce and if one person wants to avoid paying alimony, it doesn't give them the right to go out and lease a brand new Porsche to avoid having money at the end of the month to pay the other person, right? The court has the discretion to disregard that if it was not what was done during the marriage, right? If they didn't live luxuriously. But certainly when we're talking about need and we're talking about the overall amount of alimony, someone's necessities along with luxuries, right? They're absolutely taken into consideration when the judge is calculating the amount of alimony. And that's going to depend upon what the standard of living was like. Obviously, especially in Florida, there's definitely a wide range of the way people live, right? People live on the intercoastal and spend tens of thousands of dollars a month on expenses, right? And obviously people's finances vary from family to family. So the amount of alimony and the amount someone needs to live definitely varies, right? And is different from family to family. So that's essentially, though, how the court comes up with the amount of alimony. Also, the length of the marriage is considered as well. But the judge looks at need, the judge looks at ability to pay, and the judge looks at the standard of living. And with those factors, the judge is tasked with coming up with an amount of alimony to award, if alimony is even an issue in your case. Which sometimes it's not. Sometimes, there are cases where alimony is just not at play, right? It's not an issue. I really appreciate you guys, listening to this podcast. I hope that it's valuable, and I hope that you guys are learning from this. Something that I wanted to let you know is that we started recently a Facebook group that is a divorce and family law support / info group, right, on Facebook, really meant to just be another resource for people that, are going through divorce, or maybe people that are thinking about divorce to, engage, ask questions, learn from others. I'm going to be in there answering questions, sharing helpful information, and also have other experts in there, like a forensic accountant. Sometimes forensic accountants are members of the team in divorce cases. So definitely a helpful resource. So I will leave the link to that Facebook group in the show notes. If you're interested at all, please join the group. Would love to have you in there. Also, if you can leave the podcast a 5-star review, if you found it helpful, I'd really appreciate that. And then lastly, if you'd like an answer to a question, right? If you have a question for me and you want to, speak a little bit more privately, or maybe you're interested in possibly, having our firm represent you, if you want to discuss that, I'd be open to receiving your email. So my email is scott@kjlawfla.com. Again, scott@kjlawfla.com. Again, thank you, and have a great rest of your day or evening. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Florida Divorce Podcast. To learn the 10 secrets behind every successful divorce, visit floridadivorcepodcast.com. If you'd like Scott's help in your divorce case, go to kjlawfla.com.